Yan. So, good afternoon, author. Again, I would like to introduce myself before starting this interview. I am Trisha, an author then certified by the National Book Development Board of the Philippines. At ako ang makakasama mo, Mark, ngayong hapon. So everyone, this afternoon we will be talking about Mharc's hidden word, and he'll be going to answer questions. And so yun, don't waste our time. Let's start this interview. So good afternoon, Mharc. I am so grateful for having you today. Finally, natuloy din tayo after ilang schedules, ano. Ayun. So, how are you? Can you give us a quick introduction about yourself?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Miss Trisha. I'm so sorry ulit dahil nakailang na tayo, naka-reschedule na tayo. And thank you for the patience. And right now, finally, eto na. So I would like to introduce myself. A graceful day to everyone. I am Mharc Seduco, 21 years of age, a Gemini. I am currently residing in Iloilo province, and by living in the 21 years of my existence, I found myself trying to figure out what I really wanted to do in the future. Right now, I am enjoying my life or what life can offer me and still continuing chasing my goals. And I am also a risk taker, wanting to experience the different arenas of life. It's nice to meeting you all.
Okay, that is very interesting of you. Alam mo, I've seen you in some other post sa chapters of love, di ba? Nakapag-publish ka na doon. I've been seeing you through my feed, ganon. So, I'm happy to finally talk with you. So, itong question na to, palagi naman siyang tinatanong sa mga interviews, and because we are always curious nga on how long the author of our favorite story had been writing. So, ikaw, Mark, how long have you been writing, or when did you start writing?
So as I could still remember, I started writing last April 21, or I mean April 24, 2020. So it was a month where a surge of pandemic badly started here in the Philippines. Since we are prohibited to go outside and do our tasks that we used to do before, so I told myself that what if I must try to write? And if and I think it is where my love in writing started. And it all happened because of the pandemic. That's why the pandemic can possibly give us good and bad sides. So perhaps there were things that we must be grateful of the pandemic amidst its cons. And one of these is that we developed at least we discover our hidden talents or gems in ourselves. Basically, I am writing for around a year and 9 months. Yes, Miss.
Okay. Totoo. I agree with you, ano. Maraming nangyari after all those years, 'di ba? Yung iba, 'di ba, yung ibang tao, yung pandemic napakalaking effect sa kanila, sa pamumuhay nila. But still, at least we need to be grateful for everything na kung ano yung tatanggap natin ngayong blessings.
Um,
Also, ayan, I want to know what difference do you see between a writer and an author?
So, in that question, so in my perception, a writer and an author basically know how to write. So, yun talaga yung pagkakaalam natin. So, for me, they have their own unique style of writing, and of course, there are various stories to tell. However, as an individual, we must know the difference between these two because lumaki tayo na alam natin pag writer and author is isa lang ang definition niya. And for me, so last day, I started to browse Google and search for a difference to help me at least clarify things in my mind. So I gathered different explanations, but those explanations have common denominator of their difference. So, and according to a blog named eliteauthors.com, so according to Merriam-Webster daw po, the dictionary, it says that an author is a distinguished and professional writer who has published and sold their work. So basically, nakapublish na sila at nakabenta na ng kanilang mga libro or kanilang mga gawa. So additionally, it is one that originates and creates something. And on the other hand, a writer is someone who writes anything, anything that they wanted to write. For the other source on the web that I have found, um, I came across a site named Difference Between. Yeah. So it clearly states there that a writer can be anyone who can write other people's idea or just wanted to write for specific purpose. And an author is the one who creates his or her own idea, concept, and its own path in writing. Robin's story, as I searched here, it says that a writer is a writer is someone who knows to write, and an author is someone who published a book. So for me, all in all, author is considered to be a writer. However, all writers can be considered as an author themselves. Yun po yung pagkakaintindi ko between their based
Yes.
on the um, sides of the research.
Thank you. Another information, another knowledge to learn, Ako personally, katulad nga ng sinasabi ko sa ibang videos, ang writer, para sa akin, yun nga yung sinabi mo, that a person who writes book, article, o kahit na anong pwedeng sulat, Tas yung author naman, yung nag-originate ng idea, plot, content, tas nakakapag-publish na rin ng book. In connection with that, Mharc, when did you first call yourself a writer?
So, actually, Miss Trisha, there is a specific point that someone can call himself or herself a writer, even in myself. In any circumstances of his or her life, he could call himself or herself as a writer. It depends to him or her. So obviously, they write especially when they were taught or or given a task in school or in offices. But for me, I consider myself as a writer since elementary, and I can say that a writer can be anyone,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I am that part of the anyone.
Yeah. And well, we're on the topic. What do writer's block mean to you? Kasi, super parang trendy siya ngayon, Palagi ko siya nakikita sa mga posts kung saan-saan that they are
Yes.
experiencing writer's block and such. So, ano bang ibig sabihin niya para sa'yo? And na-experience mo na ba siya?
So, Miss Risha, before we have this meeting, or conversation, I started to ask assistance of Maring Google again. And one of the sites named Royal Literary Fund, a writer's block is said to be a temporary or lasting failure to put words on their paper. It can possibly hit all the writers. Wala siyang pinipili. So, however, it became a problem if a writer can't be able to reach its destination in writing. So, what that destination means, that means the ending of your story, no? So, and you will feel incapable of finishing your own work if that writer block hinders you. So, it is clearly stated that the writer's block means stopping you to continue your work, for you since you forgot or perhaps lost way or motivation. So for me, my writer's block occurs especially when I just write something without a plan. I just write my story without a plan, or perhaps I don't have any outline of my own ongoing stories. For me, this is just my opinion po, but most of the Panster were prone to this. And anyone can experience writer's block while writing, and it depends kasi kung paano siya nag-o-occur. It might be loss of motivation, it might be wala na talaga maisulat. That's why nag-offer yung writer's block. But if nagpa-process yung mind mo ng maraming bagay at ang daming niyang isulat, wala namang mangyayari yung writer's block para sa akin siguro. Yun po.
Tama, tama. Sa
Mhm.
motivation din talaga, for example, hindi na okay
Yeah.
itong motivation natin, siguro, 'di ba, we need to change our motivation, we need to change our goals, kasi doon nagsisimula yung lahat. Anyways, Mark, as a writer, 'di ba, we go through hoops, yung mga hirap para makapagsulat tayo ng chapters, makapagsulat tayo ng sentence, ganun. Minsan talaga, andun yung hirap niya, andun yung saan ka magsisimula ulit. So para sa'yo, we want to know if what is the most difficult part of your writing process? Kung meron man.
So for me, when you started to lost your drive in writing, like what I have said, if you lost your motivation, think that energy you had in the beginning of your writing career, di ba? So once you lost motivation, it's just like domino effect or and started to fall everything down. And in my case, I lost motivation and drive to write, for I have a lot of important matters to consider. And however, right now I'm still trying to fight that temptation for me to stop writing. Actually, there are lots of ideas in my mind that keeps running on my mind talaga. But I don't have the urge or determination to write it again, for I am so very busy. So the most difficult part of my writing process is I can say that when I started to feel that I want to let go of my passion that I started to love in the beginning. Yun po.
Okay, thank you
Mm.
so much. Sobrang informative and ayun, thank you. Pero ayun nga, sabi ko kanina, I've been seeing you in my feed. Tapos, usually, nakapupunta ako sa mga comments and then, ayun, maraming tao, they were rooting for you, etc. Ganun. So, pero yung mga positivity na yon, yung mga positive words, usually may katampad siyang negative reviews or negative comments. So how do you
Yes.
process or deal with negative book reviews or negative comments about you?
So siguro po sa akin, at least I never experienced that thing so far, and I never encountered negative book reviews. Fortunately, and but if this happened really to me, then I would accept it with all my heart. Siyempre, natural lang naman magkamali, or siyempre maaaring maganda para sa akin is hindi maganda para sa iyo, and vice versa. And I think those negative feedbacks and reviews can help me to improve more, for it really needs for me to step up, or every author or writer needs to have a feedback, for at least they can improve pa. Because where there is no feedback, at least, we can see that there is improvement at all. That's why if there is any negative feedback sa akin na mangyayari, then pwede ko siyang gamitin as a tool for me to improve. But there was a, a buyer na talagang parang nagalit siya sa akin the way I write, because my story nga is very tragic. That's why siguro naapektuhan siya. But hindi
Oh,
naman siya masasabi kong negative. It's because parang ano siya sa akin, pleasure na at least naapektuhan ko yung buyer
nadala
niya.
siya.
Yun pong wish siya. Yes po, yun po.
Ang galing naman. May mga ganyan talagang readers, ano nagagalit sila, tapos isipin mo, saan ba kayo nagagalit? Sa akin ba o dun sa binabasa? So, ayun, may mga books talaga, may mga stories na nadadala yung mga, alam mo na, yung mga readers mo naman sila, kaya lang, minsan, na-high blood sila sa flow. Pero ayun nga, what are the most important elements of good writing para sa'yo?
So for me, there are five important elements of good writing. These are purpose, your purpose as a writer, and your writing style, and your writing technique, or your writing genre, the organization of your story, the effectiveness of your story, and of course, your passion as a writer. These five could I can say that greatly help you as a writer to be magnificent. That is the word for today, magnificent. It's just my own take lang po, but I can say that purpose means reason of your writing. And maybe a writer writes because he or she wanted to tell to the people that it is natural to hurt in a relationship, for example. It's always part of it. And so the purpose of a writer is to let anyone know that hurting is always part of the relationship. So perhaps as a writer, you wanted to reach people who suffers from hurting. And that is your main purpose of your writing. That is one of the elements that I could say could really help a writer. Second, we have a writing style, or I mean the writing style and genre, which is could be considered as your identity as a writer. I connected it to identify for it is a writer's way of engaging his or her reading in his own or her own masterpiece. A writer must know his or her writing skills and, of course, its genres, for it could help him or her to be comfortable or of what he or she is writing. Somehow, it can make you as a writer you and could be your self-identification in the latter part. And third, we have the organization. As I said, of course, your writing must be organized and not kung yung story is makalat. So you know what I mean, Miss Lucia? And the ideas and so therefore your ideas should be intact and have a good flow of writing for it needs to convey a message to your reader. And fourth, I could say effectiveness. It's because your writing should be effective talaga. And because you are telling a story which could affect your readers. And you are not writing them for the sake that you want to have a finished story at the end. You write a story because you have a specific purpose nga, and you want to be an effective writer or an author. And lastly, I could say passion because I include this for it is one of not so considered writing elements now. And because for me, I believe that passion drives everything. I mean, if you don't have passion in writing, therefore, some of the elements can be affected po, di ba? Then you can write a story that is worth to be shared or read if you don't have, or if you don't pour your passion in the way you write or in your masterpiece. That's why the last element that I could share is the passion in you. Yun po. There are five elements po talaga para sa
Very good. Si Mark, para tayong nagre-recitation, Mark. Ang galing. Kung sino makakaano nito, makakapanood, surely may matututunan sila sa mga sinabi mo. Thank you for that. Pero ito, gusto kong malaman. Since nasabi mo na yung elements for example, yung purpose, yung ano, I want to know kung ano ba nauuna sa'yo? Yung plot ba or yung characters? Like, how do you develop them? Ano ba nauuna? Paano ka ba gumagawa ng ganito?
So, Miss Trisha, I am more concentrated to a plot. So, ang plot talaga ng story. The characters of the story will come within if you have the plot na talaga. I'm just wondering how you could write a story without a plot if you only have the characters. So, kaya sa akin, for me, plot talaga yung importante kasi yung character, pwede mo naman pag-isipan niya kahit si Juan o Pedro pa yung pangalan ng characters na as long as you have the plot there, magiging maganda yung flow ng story at magiging maganda yung output na kalalabasan ng ginawa mo. That's why plot is very important talaga.
Okay. Okay na, thank you. Itong writing, this is about your writing process na. Are you more of a plotter or a panster?
To be honest, like what I have said, I am more a panster because I'm not fond of writing a draft or any outline talaga. Because the flow of my story depends on my mood. If I hate the day, I would make the scene, of course, sad or gloomy or hazy. But I am more dependent kasi talaga of my own creative thinking ability. Art, but because there were lots of factors that could affect writing, naka-outline siya, hindi mo pa rin siya masusunod kasi maraming factors na pwedeng umepekto o maging sagabal sa ginawa mo talagang outline. That's why there are writers or authors na pag nagsulat ng plot, hindi rin naman nasusunod. That's why I am one of them. But the real reason is I can follow my outline talaga. Yun po. And that's why I prefer not to write it na lang. Because at the end, wala rin talaga nangyari sa outline ko kasi hindi ko naman siya nasunod. Yun po.
Guilty din ako. Guilty din ako. Kung kahit nag-outline ako, wala. Wala pa din. Usually, yung outline ko nilalagyan ko ng parang schedule. Okay, isusulat ko to sa ganitong araw, oras. Tapos at the end of the day, wala rin. Hindi ko rin siya nagagawa. So, relate ako dyan, Mark. Ito, next question is, what do you like to do when you're not writing?
For me, if I am not writing, wala, TikTok, nasa TikTok ako, nasa Facebook, nagsuscroll, nag-spend ng time sa mga important tasks na kailangan ko tapusin. If I have the eagerness to do it, if I have tasks or activities in school na kailangan talagang tapusin. But most of my time, I spend it reading novels to at least motivate me to write again. Kasi nga, kagaya ng sinabi ko, nawala talaga yung passion ko in writing because of maraming factors na kailangan ko talagang consider. That's why I read novels for me to regain that passion in me to write again my story. Yun po yung ginagawa ko.
Magandang strategy yung ginagawa mo. Kasi minsan, habang nagbabasa tayo, bigla na lang may susulpot na idea na, oo nga, kailangan to ng ganito. And at the same time, natututo rin tayo on, kunwari, we are reading English novels, di ba? Natututo rin tayo sa mga technicalities na meron sila. Mark, what were your learnings during the writing process? Pwede i-share sa amin.
For me, mga learnings ko is, for me, my learning in my writing process is that I found out that ang una kong ginawa is hindi pala talaga maganda. So I really need to edit again. That's why ang learning doon is may mga bagay tayo nakakalimutan sa process ng writing. That's why pag binasa natin, at least nakikita na natin yung ano yung kaya una natin pagsusulat sa next na ay sa gagawin natin next na pagsusulat. That's why ang learning ko lang doon is I know that I am not capable of writing a great story in one shot, but I have the capability to at least make my good story great in a process of editing, in a process of rereading, and in the process of evaluating my story again. Yun po.
Thank you. Totoo, tama ka naman, wala namang agad na magandang story. Yan yung, pag nagbabrowse ako sa internet, yan ang palagi kong nakikita kasi wala naman talagang ora-orada, okay na yung story mo. And kailangan ng improvements, kailangan ng editing, ng revising. Also, dahil napag-usapan na natin yung writing process, Mark, I want to know what is your favorite and the least favorite part of publishing? Kasi nakapag-publish ka na ng libro, you're selling it, minamarket mo siya sa mga readers mo. So, ayun. Ano favorite mo and hindi mo masyadong gustong part?
So, in my case po talaga, what I love about publishing is seeing the physical copy of your own labor. You invested everything before having that physical book, diba? That's why it's so very satisfying na makita mo yung gawa mo na at least na publish na siya. That's why for me, I know that might be the answer of some published author is yung makita nila yung physical book nila, seeing their efforts, their time, and ideas that finally they put into a reality, and that is having their own book. However, being a published author, it is not a journey, a happy life. Hindi siya journey na pag sinabing published author ka na, madali na siya, happy ka na. I mean, perhaps one of my least favorite nga is editing my manuscript all over again. I know yun yung sasabihin ng iba na mag-edit ng manuscript nila. Kasi nga, nakakaumay siya kung paulit-ulit mo siyang binabasa. And you won't edit, you won't edit your manuscript in one sitting lang. Hindi mo siya matatapos sa isang upuan lang. Di ba? Ilang araw yung gugugulin mo, especially kung mahaba yung story mo. Instead, after editing, you have to re-edit and re-read it again. Hindi pagkatapos na na-edit mo na siya, okay na. Kailangan mo ulit siya i-edit at basahin at i-edit. Baka may nakita ka na namang errors, di ba? It is because you really want to give your audience a story they deserve to read. That's why ginagawa mo yung best mo as an author na i-evaluate ng mabuti ang iyong manuscript. That's why it's so madugo talaga sa pag-edit before you finally arrive into its sweet destination. Kaya ang pagiging published author is hindi journey towards a happy life lang. Yun po.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that, Mark. Relate pa rin. Relate ako ulit. Pag editing talaga, parang feeling mo wala nang katapusan. Ano? Kailangan pagkatapos nito, ulit ka na naman ng ulit. Ayan, ikaw ang unang author na na-interview ko na meron ng published book. Anyways, what advice would you give na lang to those aspiring writers aiming to become a published author like you? Maraming may gusto eh. Maraming gusto mag-try.
Opo. Kaya nga po. Maraming nagtatanong kasi nakikita ko sa ibang post kung paano maging published author. That's why some of the published authors na isinutulungan nila yon na ito yung publishing house na ito is open for call for submission. And for me, the advice I can give to the inspiring writers, to the aspiring writers or authors out there, is to know your value. Knowing your value will give you the avenue to speak your mind. And by speaking your mind, you will be determined to take risks. By taking risks, you have a 50-50 chances of winning or either losing. But at the end, that action will put you into something greater than you are expecting. That's why don't be don't be afraid to be rejected upon taking risks. Because marami talagang natatakot na ma-reject. That's why hindi sila nag-take ng risk. Kaya, huwag kayong matakot na mag-take ng risk. It is always a part of the process talaga. As long as you are determined to achieve your dreams, no one can ever judge and stop you to do so. If being rejected, start over again and find the missing piece in your masterpiece and try again to submit your manuscript to the publishing house that's open for submission. Yun po.
Very good. Alam mo, may mga nagtatanong din sa akin kung paano nga maging published author. And wala rin naman akong ibang sinasabi, di ba? Kundi, after kahit ma-reject, di ba, babalik ka pa din dun sa passion mo. Ba't ka ba nagsimulang magsulat? Ano ba talaga yung gusto mong gawin? And if you like to publish your book, gusto mo i-market sa mga tao, di ba, gagawin mo lahat. Uulit ka ng uulit para mapunta ka sa kung anong gusto mong gawin.
Yes.
For the next question, this is kind of funny one. If you could spend a day with another popular author, Mharc, whom would you choose?
So, if I would choose Mr. Acosta Ibarra. Are you familiar with him? Yes, po.
Yes.
Because I think I can learn a lot from him. I can learn a lot from him talaga kasi para sa akin, he's so smart. He's one of the writers of detective genres, if I am not mistaken. And I read some of his works, and I really admire his writing style talaga. And also, for me, he is kinda based sa mga vlogs na nakikita ko on YouTube, nakasama siya. And that's why I hope to meet him soon, and if ever be given a chance to give advices, kung ano talaga may kabubuti ko rin para sa akin. Because I know, wala talaga akong dinaanan na process ng pagsusulat. Dahil lang sa pandemic na yon, sinubukan ko lang, and nandito na rin ako. That's why, kung pwedeng ipagpapatuloy ko. But also, I do love meeting in person din si Ate Demi Rizal, also known as Anak ni Rizal po. And si Grace Perry, an author of The Billionaire's Kryptonite, and si Miss April Avery. Because I am really fond of reading detective, mystery, fantasy genres talaga. That's why kung papalarin, sila yung mga taong gusto kong makita in person.
I admire those writers na katulad mo, Mark, kasi 'di ba? Napakaraming challenges eh. And if you're this author na alam mo 'yon, yung hindi napapagod matuto. You're always open for improvements, and yun nakakabilib. Sana ipagpatuloy mo 'yan kasi writing never ending process. Learning, katulad ng learning is hindi natatapos na proseso eh. And we should always be open to learn, to improve. Ayun. Thank you for that. Mali mo makita to ni ng mga authors na nabanggit mo, tapos
Baka naman, charot.
anyways, ang dami, balita ko, marami ka nang na-publish na books, tapos yung iba, naging book, na-publish na story, yung iba naging books na. Pero have you ever killed off a character that your readers love?
To be honest, Miss Trisha, yes. I love writing sad endings kasi that's why in that character, even I love that character. Since it is very needed for my story. Masisira ang flow ng story ko if papairalin ko ang awa sa character na yan, kahit gusto ko pa yan. I am not saying na wala po akong awa, but kasi kailangan siya ng story o mabura bago matapos ng story. And of writing sad endings, kaya wala naman akong pakialam. Charot. Kaya okay lang sa heart.
Siguro marami ka nang pinaiyak, Mark, sa mga stories mo.
Siguro po, hindi ko pala alam, pero maraming nagagalit. May galit.
Nadadala sila,
Yes,
next question natin is, what advice would you give to a writer working on their first draft? Kasi 'di ba, mahirap magsimula, pero mas mahirap magpatuloy. So, what's your advice for them?
So just like what I have said earlier, please know your value. Your value will bring you to the situation you are dreaming of. Just be yourself, and of course, you need to be authentic. You and your story will have a good life soon. Hala. Because I am a huge fan of the saying, everything happens for a reason. If it is your time to shine, take that spotlight, and for sure it will be yours kasi nga sa iyo yung spotlight talaga. So, for me, just continue your passion. Ikaw pa, alam kong kaya mo yan at alam kong kakayanin mo yan. Kaya continue ka lang. Yun po.
Okay. Any other thing na lang? Any other thing or announcement that you'd like to let everyone know about your writing career?
Okay, first of all, I want to thank you, Miss Trisha, for giving me this platform, no? That's why I just want to thank those individuals who bought my first ever published book entitled Hindi Lahat ng Kwento ay Masaya. So, thank you for trusting my passion and talent ko. I owe you a lot. I do really appreciate your sweet gesture of availing my book. And to the viewers out there, if you would love to have a copy of my book, you can pre-order it until March 25, 2022. This is under Chapters of Love Indie Publishing. You can search it on Facebook or just direct message me on my Facebook account so I can share the details with you. Thank you so much, Ms. Trisha, for allowing me to have this small talks with you. So I am very elated to talk with you talaga. Thank you.
And thank you for pagpayag sa aming interview, Mark. I'll end this one. Thank you so much.